Norman Lear was the first person that got me. I mean, I was playing jacks with his daughter. Norman says to my dad, you know, this kid is really funny. My dad said, what, that kid? That kid, he's a sullen. He sits quiet. He doesn't, you know, he's not funny.
For more than 4 decades, Rob Reiner avoided answering one question directly. Whenever interviews drifted toward All in the Family, he praised the show, the writing, the impact, but he always circled carefully around one name, Carroll O'Connor. On screen, they were locked in endless ideological war, shouting across a living room that reflected America's deepest divisions. Off-screen, the silence surrounding their relationship only fueled rumors of resentment, ego clashes, and unresolved hostility. Before his death, Reiner finally speaks plainly, and what he admits rewrites everything people thought they knew about the man behind Archie Bunker and about himself. The first collision between Carroll O'Connor and Rob Reiner happened when Rob Reiner joined All in the Family in 1971. He immediately understood one thing. This was not a set built on comfort or camaraderie. It was a pressure chamber. The show existed to ignite conflict, and his character, Michael Meathead Stivic, was written as a direct weapon against Archie Bunker, played by Carroll O'Connor. Every line Mike spoke was designed to provoke, corner, and morally expose Archie. By the time Reiner arrived, O'Connor was already at war behind the scenes. He fought Norman Lear relentlessly over scripts, tone, and intent, insisting that Archie could not be allowed to drift into parody. He believed that if Archie became funny without consequence, the character would become dangerous. That tension spilled onto the set, and Reiner walked straight into it. O'Connor did not greet Reiner with reassurance. Instead, he watched him closely. During rehearsals, O'Connor would deliberately alter timing, hold silences longer than written, and deliver lines with unexpected force, forcing Reiner to abandon rehearsal instincts and react in real time. The on-screen arguments were brutal, and O'Connor made sure they felt that way. He hurled insults with such conviction that Reiner later admitted he sometimes questioned whether the anger ended with the scene. Yet the real confrontation came after the cameras stopped. O'Connor never shouted. He corrected quietly, once telling Reiner, "If you don't believe what you're saying, the audience will know before the laugh track does." That was the beginning of something complicated. O'Connor did not want obedience from Reiner. He wanted resistance that could stand up to Archie, and Reiner understood that survival on that set meant meeting O'Connor's standard, not avoiding it. By the time All in the Family reached its 8th season, the conflict between Archie Bunker and Mike Stivic had become mechanical. They argued because that was what they were supposed to do. Archie barked insults. Mike fired back with moral certainty. The audience laughed, nodded, or argued at home, but nothing actually changed. Even Rob Reiner later admitted that the fights had begun to feel circular, loud, without movement. Then came the episode Two's a Crowd. On paper, it was a practical solution. Trap 2 characters in one location, save money, fill airtime. Archie and Mike are accidentally locked overnight in the storeroom of Archie's bar. A bottle of liquor appears. Time stretches. What was supposed to be another verbal boxing match slowly becomes something else. What most viewers never knew was that the emotional center of the episode was not written. Carroll O'Connor had been waiting years for this moment. He had built Archie's inner life privately, carefully, knowing that revealing it too early would weaken the character. When Mike finally asked, "I don't understand how you get to feel this way about people," O'Connor recognized the opening he had been waiting for. Instead of dodging the question, Archie answered honestly for the first time. He spoke about his father with loyalty, not bitterness. He described physical punishment as discipline, confinement as education, cruelty as love. Archie explained that the man who taught him to play ball, who held his hand on his first walk, could not have been wrong about the world. If his father believed certain people were dangerous, then Archie believed it too. To him, rejecting those lessons would mean rejecting love itself. Later, O'Connor explained the meaning of that confession plainly. The poison got into the system. It was passed on. It was Archie's heritage. This was not an excuse for prejudice. It was a diagnosis. Reiner understood that instantly. Instead of countering with politics or argument, he changed Mike's behavior. He listened. He allowed silence. When Archie eventually passed out, Mike covered him with a blanket. That action was not scripted. It was a deliberate choice. From that moment forward, the conflict transformed. Mike no longer fought Archie as an enemy to be defeated. He challenged him as a wounded man shaped by inherited fear. The shouting never disappeared, but its meaning changed. Hatred gave way to understanding, and understanding made the conflict human. When All in the Family ended in 1979, Carroll O'Connor walked away from the show carrying Archie Bunker. The public did not separate the man from the character. Letters accused him of racism. Some praised Archie as a hero. Others condemned him as proof that O'Connor himself must share those beliefs. Rob Reiner watched this quietly, and for the first time, the imbalance felt unfair. What Reiner had learned in that storeroom years earlier now mattered more than ever. He knew Archie's hatred was inherited, examined, and deliberately exposed, and he knew O'Connor despised everything Archie represented. Off camera, O'Connor was restrained, almost shy. He avoided Hollywood parties, preferred books to crowds, and spoke carefully. In interviews, he described Archie as a man who never smiled and never had anything nice to say, explaining that such bitterness was not chosen, but passed down like a disease. It was not an excuse. It was an explanation. That understanding reshaped Reiner's work as he transitioned fully into directing. The influence became visible. Stand By Me explored how childhood trauma silently dictates adulthood. A Few Good Men examined how authority teaches obedience long before morality intervenes. Reiner later acknowledged that O'Connor taught him something essential. You do not lecture the audience into reflection. You let characters reveal themselves, and judgment follows naturally. Despite years of rumors, Reiner was explicit about their relationship. We didn't fight off camera, he said. We had enormous affection for each other. That affection was not loud. They did not chase publicity together. Their bond existed in trust. When Carroll O'Connor died in 2001, Reiner did not rush to explain their history. He chose silence, believing the story spoke for itself. Only later, with age and distance, did Reiner realize that silence allowed misunderstanding to survive, and that was something he could no longer accept. At 78, Rob Reiner speaks about Carroll O'Connor without defensiveness, nostalgia, or performance. There is no longer any need to protect myths, to polish legacies, or to soften truths that once felt too heavy to say out loud. Time has done what interviews never could. It has stripped everything down to its essence. What remains is clarity and a quiet sense of responsibility to finally say what went unsaid for decades. Reiner now understands that Carroll O'Connor devoted his life to one of the most dangerous tasks an actor can take on, embodying hatred so truthfully that it could never be mistaken for virtue, even at the cost of being misunderstood by millions. O'Connor knew exactly what he was risking. He knew that some viewers would cheer Archie Bunker instead of questioning him, and that others would confuse the character with the man playing him. He accepted that burden anyway, believing that exposing ugliness honestly was more important than being liked. He was one of the kindest men I ever met, Reiner said. People thought maybe Archie lived inside him. He didn't. That sentence carries decades of weight. Reiner spent years watching audiences applaud Archie's cruelty or condemn O'Connor personally, never realizing the emotional price of sustaining that illusion. O'Connor rarely defended himself publicly. He didn't explain Archie. He didn't correct the misunderstanding. He trusted that the work over time would reveal the truth. Only now does Reiner fully grasp how isolating that choice was, to be hated, praised, or misunderstood in silence for the sake of the story. Looking back, Reiner admits that his fear on the All in the Family set was never about conflict or confrontation. It was about failing O'Connor's standard. Every pause, every silence, every improvised exchange carried an unspoken test. Was it honest or was it easy? What once felt like relentless pressure, Reiner now recognizes as mentorship at its purest. O'Connor never asked for loyalty or admiration. He asked for truth. The truth Reiner finally tells is simple and devastating in its clarity. Carroll O'Connor carried America's ugliest character so others wouldn't have to. He absorbed the hatred, confusion, and moral discomfort, and he did it without becoming the man he portrayed. So what do you think? Was Carroll O'Connor misunderstood or perfectly understood too late? Leave your answer in the comments. And if this story surprised you, subscribe for more untold truths behind television's most dangerous legends.